Oh, God, there are so many dumbass fucking idiots out there right now. I just can't even shake a stick out of it. Many people are now saying, well, it's too late for Nintendo on the Wii U to have Minecraft. Yeah, or saying, and this is the most preposterous thing I've ever heard. Nintendo, how much did you pay for that game? Pay Microsoft to give you that game? Oh man, nobody understands the history of Microsoft at all. First of all, Microsoft, well, they did. We're gonna have a Halo game on the Game Boy. That's because Microsoft didn't have a handheld, and it made sense. You can look it up. That was real. It was canceled, but it was gonna come out. Now we are just dealing with dumbass people who is not asking important questions to like why Microsoft is putting Minecraft on the Wii U. Instead, they're just outright blaming Nintendo and saying all these negative, cruel ass things about Nintendo for no fucking reason whatsoever. In the most idiot circle jerk I've ever seen in my entire life. It's just, no, Nintendo's fault. It's Nintendo's fault. If anybody has ever researched Microsoft's past, they only give out their games if they don't to other competitors if they don't have that product. Since like Halo, Microsoft didn't have a handheld, so they were going to put a Halo game on the Game Boy. It didn't fall through though, because Microsoft doesn't have a handheld. If they had a handheld, they would put it on their system and say, fuck you, Nintendo. And Microsoft doesn't like to share their shit with most of their competitors half the times, unless they are forced to. Like what happened when they finally put Office on Apple. Long story short, Microsoft was caught stealing some C codes and doing some business practices, which also led to the antitrust trial, but also led to other lawsuits, mainly, stealing QuickTime C code or codecs, which wasn't a good idea on Microsoft's part, which inevitably forced Microsoft to put Office on the OS on all the Macs, even today. And as for, but they had Internet Explorer on Apple and on Linux. The Apple version was due to the lawsuits, which I mentioned. The Linux version was so they can get a C code, so they can get the coding for Linux. And what they were trying to do is get the Unix corporations to basically sue Linux. It's complicated, but they ended up creating what's now known as FUD, which is a word that was created by mostly Linux users for people who basically hated Linux or try to do questionable things against Linux. And as for Minecraft on the PlayStation, Microsoft didn't make that deal. Mojang, and I believe the guy calls himself Notch, made that deal before Microsoft bought out Mojang, and then kept that they would not interfere with it. Why? Because it was a deal made before the buyout. The same way Disney didn't still allowed Paramount to produce, a certain amount of their movies until Paramount willingly just gave all the rights back to Disney. Yeah, the Avengers movie was made by Paramount, but distributed by Warner Brothers, and Paramount got the credits for it, mainly because Paramount and Warner and Disney do work together. So why in all the fucks did Microsoft give Nintendo this rights when clearly they weren't going to ever give Nintendo any kind of rights to the Wii U? And then when it starts to matter, one possible way is that they want to get into the Asian markets because, as you know, the Xbox One, well, in all of Asia is at like 2% or even lower, or maybe a bit higher, but it's selling like shit. I mean, diarrhea sells better than that thing. And the only time Microsoft really gave their programs to other competitors, like giving up the Halo game to the other iOS devices, and by the way, it didn't come out for the PS4 or Wii U, but it did come out for Xbox One. Shock of all shocks. Was right before Microsoft basically ended the Windows phones. Of course, it wasn't much of a shock due to the phones only had like 2% of the market when Android and iOS was just killing it. But as for getting the Japanese markets and all that, well, Minecraft is already out on the PS4 in the Asian market. It's right there. And yeah, Microsoft says they're going to publish the Japanese version of, or the Asian version of Minecraft. There's not going to be Mojang. Mojang will do the US version in the Wii U, and Microsoft will do the Japanese version. This doesn't make any sense. It still doesn't answer the why, the overwhelming why did they do it? And it still ponders a ton of questions, even though the Xbox fanboys want to get rid of my free right to free speech and say, "Well, why are you asking questions about this? You don't have any rights." Yeah, I do. Go check the United States. It's called freedom of speech. It says it right there. I believe it's on the Bill of Rights, morons. And if you don't like my asking this question, here's an advice: turn, click that little X thing on your tab and make the whole video just go away and just pretend you never saw it. That's a good idea. And the reason why I don't believe that Nintendo paid Microsoft off is because any moron out there would tell you that Microsoft makes a fuck ton of more money than what Nintendo will ever make in their lifetimes. Not just from the Xbox, but from a whole slew of other shit. And, Office, Windows sales, and now they got an app program, even though their phones didn't sell worth of shit. But and then they got other programs for Windows. So, if Nintendo was going to pay Microsoft, they basically would end up paying the equivalent of giving a homeless man a nice meal at McDonald's, and I mean just one quarter pounder meal, and that's it, and just for one day. And that's it, just one meal, one day, and pretty much that's all there's going to be. So Nintendo doesn't even make enough money to even buy Minecraft or to even pay for Minecraft onto their system at all. There is no fucking way Nintendo could even pay what kind of price that Microsoft would put on there, because Microsoft can make $1 billion in a day, regardless if Minecraft is on the Wii U or not, or put onto another system, or even put onto anything. And Microsoft does not share their shit with their competitors. If they have a competing piece of technology, they're not going to share their software with that competitor who is in the same competitorship at all. They only did that with the Windows phones because, well, the Windows phones are dead and gone. They only did that with they were only going to allow a Halo game to be put on Game Boy because they don't have a handheld. Or at least at that time they didn't have a handheld. Because it was for the Game Boy Advance. And as for all the other versions they made for other companies, that was through lawsuits and being forced to, or doing something shady just so they can get some coding without anybody or hoping that nobody would notice. So why in this this makes no sense. There is no reason why Microsoft would do this unless they're trying to do some bullshit way of trying to get into the Asian markets again. which they aren't at all, and it ain't gonna work at all. And not only that, they already have Minecraft in the Asian markets on the PlayStation. This this just brings more questions than answers. See ya. Oh, yeah, I can't wait till you guys end up replying and just coming up with all these ridiculous nonsense that doesn't make a lick of sense at all.